welcome to Doors and Corners, a sci-fi and fantasy film commentary podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Zach. And every Friday, we sit down and watch a science fiction or fantasy film and give our 2 cents on its quality, production, story, and trivia.
We watch the film together, but without sounds or visuals provided to avoid copyright issues. But if you do have access, we encourage you to join us and follow along.
Here, we like to keep things casual, and there may be discussions of spoilers or sensitive materials or language. But we do try and keep things clean and family-friendly. Ultimately, the goal of this podcast is to create the experience of us all sitting down and watching this movie together.
So get ready to hit that play button, because we're about to get started.
Damn doors and corners, I mean, that's where they get you.
Welcome back to Doors and Corners. I'm Brian.
I'm Zach.
And tonight, we're not watching anything. What are we doing tonight, Zach?
Tonight we're going to be doing our year-end recap, which means that we're going to be going back and we're going to be talking about our favorite and least favorite movies or discussions, because frankly, we couldn't quite figure out if we were talking about our favorite films or our favorite episodes. So we're probably going to do a mixture of a little bit of both.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the ones that we loved recording and the movies that we just loved watching, the movies that we hated recording, and I don't think I've had a bad time doing a recording, so that's not going to be a category.
No, I've there's been some tired evenings, I'll give you that. But
Yeah.
no, even the bad movies were fun to hang out. Although there are definitely some movies that we watched this year that unless I am paid, I have no intention of ever watching again in my entire life.
Well, why don't we go ahead and start there then, Brian? What movie is it that you're thinking of that would fill this particular niche? Because I have a feeling that ours will be similar.
Similar. Okay. I'm just right away, I have to bring up Pacific Rim Uprising. Not only is this movie bad, but I think this might be one of the worst direct follow-ups ever made. It took everything that made Pacific Rim special, and Pacific Rim is not a perfect film. We talked about it. There's little issues.
Screw that. Masterpiece.
It's A.
Masterpiece of B-movie schlock.
Okay, we did talk about that. Yes, if you just take it for all of its kind of schlocky goodness, then yes. But Pacific Rim Uprising, it just wait, and we talked about this at length, I believe. What could
Ad
have
nauseam,
been
you could say.
a new, amazing franchise that was fairly original, even though obviously it was based heavily on a lot of Asian themes with Western influences, and it had heavy inspiration, but there's so much talk these days about original, new original ideas, an original IP, something fresh and new. And the first movie did that. And then the second movie came along and learned all the wrong lessons for why people liked that first movie. And I would be happy to never, ever watch that movie again in my entire life.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it never comes to mind, because Pacific Rim, it has a certain longevity that's been maintained in the zeitgeist of nerd culture, to where I would say that I end up thinking about Pacific Rim maybe as much as once a day, if not,
Wow.
A couple times a week.
So it's
right?
like your Roman Empire.
But I think about the Roman Empire every day, easily. I'm one of those.
Sorry.
100%.
Throw that in there.
And so even with the reminders of Pacific Rim existing, whether it's through memes or just other things being in the nerdosphere, I don't even think about Uprising. It's like I blocked it from my memory. And we were talking about how we should have done more bad movies this year, because it was almost too good. It's like we were just watching stuff that we wanted to watch. And by the way, I have stacked next year, because I've already lined it out with some pretty bad movies, and
Yeah.
I'm really excited for it. I am really excited for some of these absolutely terrible pieces of crap. We're going to be watching. I'll just say one out there, okay? Unless something happens. We're going to be watching Gods of Egypt from 2016. And ladies and gentlemen, you are not prepared for that. Okay,
I'm still not prepared. I
I'm
haven't
not
watched that
prepared for
yet. I need to see it before we record, and you have
I've
me
never
scared.
seen the whole thing. I've never seen the whole thing, and the terror will abound. But anyway, Pacific Uprising is so distinct in being the bottom of the barrel for this year that both of us agreed on it. Because we have other opinions on worse movies, but before we get into those, what is one of your favorite experiences this year, Brian?
Oh, I mean, so I was so happy to do Arrival, and this is where my nerdiest nerd side comes out, along with the fact that as much as I love a good action beat, I grew up on classic older movies that were slower, were old, just a little quieter, a little bit less, just they just felt like they were made in a different era. And Arrival to me is like one of the best modern interpretations of kind of that style of filmmaking. It's contemplative, it's beautiful. It challenges you to think through things. I love that the aliens are really alien. I love a movie that if you're not paying attention will immediately make people think plot hole, plot hole. And it's like, no, you weren't paying attention. There's not a plot hole. You have to come meet the movie where it asks you to meet it. And if you understand its premise, it's beautiful. And it actually, I've had this conversation with a few people. It even triggers this really interesting like spiritual parallel about just like life and time. It also has just the music, it's like, it's the title of the track. It's like Dwelling on Daylight or something Daylight. But anyway, it's just a beautiful piece of music. I think Amy Adams is one of the few movies that I really enjoyed her in, because we've talked about the fact
The Nature of Daylight.
The Nature of Daylight, yes. That we're not massive fans of Amy Adams. Like, sorry, like not trying to hate. It's just
that's me. That's me. I'm not a fan of Amy Adams.
But I thought that her performance was really good. I thought Jeremy Renner's performance was really good. Forrest Whitaker's amazing in it. It's just to me it is it's like the best part of Star Trek. And Wrath of Khan is my favorite Star Trek. So I like action in Star Trek, but I also love Star Trek when there's no action, when it's just sitting back and like, what if this? And there are tiny little action beats in Arrival, but that's a movie that I will, anytime somebody's like, you want to, yeah, I'll watch that again. You want to talk? Yeah, I'll talk about it again. And I don't watch it all the time. Like it's the kind of movie, like as much as I will happily watch it anytime somebody wants to, it's a movie I can't just throw on. Like I can't casually watch it, because every time I see it, I want to just be 100% focused on it and just think about it and watch it and just be absorbed in it. I know I'm just gushing and being a little whatever, but it is for me easily top 5 sci-fi film of all time, possibly top 3 sci-fi film of all time. For like, this is like my favorite. So I'm not saying objectively, just my favorite sci-fi films. It is very high up there, and it's also a movie I'll defend, because I've had some people that I respect, try to argue that it's got issues, and I just like this sounds so cliche, but I'd be like, it's because you didn't get it then. So you don't have to like it. I mean, I get it. The slow pace, that type of intellectual style, it's not for everybody, and that's totally fine. But if you argue that it's actually like flawed in a way, like objectively, I will fight you. What do you?
100%.
Go ahead.
And you see, I'm really glad that you brought it up. I didn't put it on my top of the year. I do love Arrival. It is one of the few movies that will provoke like a genuine emotional response. Like, I wouldn't like straight out be weepy or anything like that, but my eyes well up, because I don't really cry much in movies, and we actually did 2 of them this year that regularly elicit those type of responses, and Arrival being one of them. It's so rare to find a movie that has so much interesting science fiction to it, is so beautiful to look at, but can also just reach into your very heart and soul and do things, you know? And I wholeheartedly agree that Arrival, I think Arrival has its place in like the top 5 science fiction films of the 21st century at least. And if you're going to put together the list of the best science fiction movies of all time, it does need to be on there, even if it's like number 15 or something.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about growing up with slower, more cerebral and pensive science fiction, technically I was, with the way that my dad would watch things like 2001,
Ooh.
2010, Day the Earth Stood Still, things like that. But I grew up kind of the opposite because those didn't interest me. I didn't really care about watching those. I wanted to watch Independence Day and Men in Black. Um, I wanted to watch big, flashy, stupid action sci-fi. And Arrival was one of the movies going through kind of a movie snob phase where I was like, I'm going to see all kinds of movies. It doesn't matter if it's going to be an action movie or a super thing, and I wanted to be kind of like, oh, I'm an intellectual movie nerd. Arrival is one of those that came out and it stuck with me even after I moved past that phase and went, you know what? I'm actually not a fan of a bunch of kind of art house movies. I'm not a fan of those kind of things most of the time. You'll hear people talking about being really like high-minded and poignant and great impact intellectual movies. I'm like, that's cool. I'm sure they're great. I don't care. I actually do want to watch a superhero movie. I want to watch a fun sci-fi. But things like Arrival, and we'll probably talk about it shortly here, Interstellar, things like that stuck with me as genuinely incredible works of fiction, works of art as film.
Yeah, I
So,
completely agree. I'm glad we're on a similar page there. There's a handful of movies in the last 15, 20 years that I distinctly remember thinking about. I just like it would just come into my mind on a regular basis for weeks and weeks after I saw them in theaters, where it would just be like I would
mhm.
just be driving or working on something, and it would just all of a sudden be like, oh man, I just drift back to it. And not many movies do that. Even movies that I really enjoy don't often do that to me. And it was one of those that I just, and it's also when somebody hasn't seen it, it's really high on the list for me going like, you should see this. Like let's sit down, let's see it. I don't want to spoil anything or ruin anything. And then let's make sure we watch it when we have time to talk about it afterwards, because there's some really interesting things to talk about. So yeah, no, I
Yeah. Arrival was one of those where it was really important to show my wife that movie. We were already married and everything, and we were doing the podcast. I was gearing up, and I'm like, "Hey, this is a movie that's actually like important to me, and I want you to kind of sit and enjoy it, and not just be like looking at your phone and being like, oh yes, I'm watching a Zach movie, you know." And she did, and she really liked it. Probably not so much like, oh, let's watch that all the time, but she respected and appreciated it, and it's a really special movie to me.
yeah. Well,
Now,
Zach, shifting gears, why don't you give us a movie that you did not feel that way about this last year?
so we both already talked about Pacific Rim Uprising. Um, I really struggled finding one that had as much emotional impact or visceral impact on me because I was thinking about things like Clash of the Titans from 1981, which in some ways I absolutely adored. Like the the animation and everything like that, despite it being a really boring and stupid movie that looked 20 years out of date even when it premiered. And so, or something like Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, which was just such a letdown as a film and just had so many problems to it. But for this, I have to go with Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. I get that the movie was hamstrung. I get that the movie, like, it was never going to be good, and there were all kinds of production problems, and the people involved, they did their best, but they couldn't do it. This movie's trash, and it never should have existed in the first place. It was an act of greed and hubris. It never should have existed in the first place. And everything about it was bad. And unlike Pacific Uprising, which makes me mad because it was such a waste, it was such a derailment. Um, this movie makes me sad for everybody involved. I pity the quest for peace. More than anything, it's like it's like a really old mangy dog that
Aw.
needs to be put down, and you're like, no, there's no chance for this thing. It just needs to. It's time.
Yeah.
That's kind of Superman: The Quest for Peace for me. It just because
Yeah.
like Superman 3 was not good, but it had some moments and interesting things in it, and is low key one of the most influential Superman properties ever.
Yeah.
After Superman 3, Lex Luthor went from the greatest criminal mastermind of our time, evil scientist in a lab trying to rob a bank and stealing 40 cakes, to this business mogul and entrepreneurial character who is both like acclaimed by humanity but hated by Superman, and not just evil villain but social rival.
Yeah. I wish I could disagree with you because so the Christopher Reeve Superman movies is one of those just strange things because you have, I mean, Superman the movie. There have been better superhero films made since then, like objectively, but there aren't any superhero films that have been made that are more special to me personally than the first. It's in that this was core to my childhood. I grew up like it was. It's one of those islands in Inside, that's like it's part of a motif on one of those islands for the influence.
Inside Out.
In Inside Out, yeah, one of those, where it's like if there was a movie island, it's in that like that structure there that informed. I've talked about it when talking about like Captain Kirk, in Star Trek, just like the characters that genuinely influenced how I grew up and how I perceived manhood and heroism and responsibility and grace and what to do with strength, and just so many things that influenced how I grew up and how I perceived the kind of person I wanted to be. And as much, it might sound super cheesy, but I'm guessing people who are listening to a podcast like this would understand what a fictional character can do for you. The right kind. And Christopher Reeve's Superman absolutely was one of those key figures in my life. And so to go from where we started with the Donner original to where his run ended is just, it's so tragic, because you're right. As much as I love Christopher Reeve and love him as Superman, it is such a bad movie. It is embarrassing. Like you said, it makes me sad also. It makes me feel like I just want to go. And Christopher Reeve went through quite a few things in his life. Superman 4 was not the worst thing he went through. I mean, famously,
No.
most people know, right? His accident and being paralyzed and everything. But it makes me want to like just go find him in the past and just hug him. Like, I'm sorry. Because
you're one.
I've always believed that he loved that character and loved trying to use that character for good, and even the plot for Quest for Peace, which is a bad plot. I adore
It's
this.
terrifying if you give it real thought.
Oh yeah, I adore the sentiment behind it. I'm not saying that in a naive way, because it is honestly kind of a naive point of view that would lead you down that as like a solution. But there's also like a sincerity behind that as misguided as it is, I still appreciate, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If we could
I
just
think of it
not
very
have...
similar. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think of it very
go ahead.
similar to what we went over last year with The Day the Earth Stood Still. The Day the Earth Stood Still, better sci-fi movies have been made since, but few have been as important. And Superman kind of is that for the superhero genre. And there is a cheesiness to it. There's a sentiment to it that is old fashioned.
Yeah.
But in that is also so much of its value. And Quest for Peace, it had the glimmers of that, but it what a glimmer isn't enough to save you from just the unfortunate state of the movie itself.
Yeah.
And I can't help but put it at the very bottom. It belongs there. I would much rather go watch Tomb of the Dragon Emperor again.
Oh, I
And that should warn you.
about to say, like, I was just about to try to come up with a disagreement to that statement, and I can't. I can't in good conscience because, yeah, yeah, it's.
Yeah.
But I believe the quest for peace. We will leave that to rest in peace, and probably never speak of it again.
I will never watch that movie again if I can help it.
Yeah.
If I have a kid and I'm showing them superhero movies, I'm gonna show them Christopher Reeve's Superman 1 and 2. But if they get to the stage where like, oh, I'm watching all these retro superhero movies, I want to watch all the Supermans. I'm at 3 and 4. I'll be like, you want me to watch them with you? Oh, of course. I'm like, okay. Or no, that's all right. I'm like, peace out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, the only way I could see doing it again is if somebody was really into Superman and into the cinema history of him. I'm like, okay, this is almost like a course. Like you need to know what this movie was and kind of why it happened for film history and the history of the character. But outside of that kind of conversation / context, never.
Never ever.
Yep.
Now,
but
we should probably move past that and
we
jump
should.
onto a good movie.
And Zach, why don't you tell us one of your favorite movies, other than Arrival, of course, of this last year?
So I'm going to go all the way back to our very, very, very second, our second podcast of the calendar year, which was a big surprise for me. And so I'm not saying this is one of the best movies we watched, but this was one of my favorite movie watching experiences of the year with this podcast, which was Punisher Warzone. We began the year with 2004's Thomas Jane Punisher, and immediately after we jumped to Ray Stevenson's Punisher Warzone from 2008. It was the last superhero movie released in 2008, and it was kind of pushed out to a little. Everybody knew it was going to bomb. Nobody really cared that it existed anymore, and I remember seeing it back then. I went and saw it in theaters, and I hated it. I was like, this movie is crap. What, like, how in the name of God did this movie get made? I had all these big feelings about it. And so, as I was putting together, I should say as we were putting together the schedule, and I put Punisher Warzone on there, I did it with kind of a fiendish chuckle. This is going to be such a good one. It's going to be so bad. We're going to tear it apart. And then I went and rewatched it. And in between having seen it in 2008 and then here in Year of Our Lord 2025, though actually we recorded that at the very end of 2024, don't tell anybody. I had read more Punisher comics. I'd read Punisher Warzone, the comics. I'd read the Punisher Max series as well as several others. And the time he got turned into a Frankenstein after being killed by Wolverine's son, who was working for the Avengers, but they were the bad Avengers under the control of Norman Osborn, who was the Iron Patriot. Oh God, comics are stupid sometimes. Actually, it was a pretty good run, to be totally honest. But it was fun. It was dumb. It was fun. It was great. Punisher Warzone is a film. I realized that it was so much more accurate to the comics, and it had such a good tongue-in-cheek approach, because when you're thinking about superhero movies in 2008, what are you getting? You're getting Iron Man and The Dark Knight. People don't really think about Hellboy 2 and The Incredible Hulk and Punisher Warzone in the same category. And so following The Dark Knight, everybody, including myself, was like, I want a serious, gritty superhero movie. And what's better for a serious, gritty superhero movie than The Punisher? And they come out with this big, flashy, goofy, dumbass music video looking thing. But then you rewatch it, I'm like, oh God, this is the comic book. And the action is good, and Ray Stevenson is so stinking good in the thing. Rest in peace, dude. Um, I just, I had such a good time researching it. I had such a good time watching it and discussing it, and my um, opinion on it is a complete 180. Am I going to sit there and say that it's like a great movie? No, but it is a fantastic Punisher film. And if I have to sit there and you had to sit there, blah, 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 that sentence made no sense. If you were going to ask me to create a list of the most accurate comic book films, which are, films or a season of a TV show that's most like the comic book it's based after, that one's going to be in the top 5, if not the top 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, for me, I mean, I liked it also very much, which was I will happily admit that one was I would list that as my biggest surprise that this last year, because so that movie, I had never seen it. I had just heard about it. I had heard its reputation preceded it. And I watched that movie the day before, for the first time ever, the day before we recorded. Like, watched it, took it in, did some research on it, kind of sat in it for a day, and then we recorded. And I was I was shocked, because I really ended up enjoying it. And it has a lot of things that please, and anybody who's hearing this, like, go back and listen to these if you're curious, because obviously we expand our thoughts much more during the actual commentary. But Ray Stevenson was great, because I love Thomas Jane, and I really like his Punisher film despite its many problems. And I kind of went in with almost like just a total predetermination of like, this is, at best, this is going to be kind of like B tier. And if it wasn't for my high bias towards Thomas Jane, I would probably put Warzone ahead as the best Punisher movie. Its highs were very high. Ray Stevenson was amazing, like you said. The action, for the most part, there were a few parts I was like, all right, there's a little crossbow. But it surprised me over and over again. And I do really love a movie that can surprise me. And it's also a good reminder that, try to, as much as we live in the world of just, the internet immediately tells you what you're supposed to think about everything, and everybody's, piling on one way or the other. And it's easy to come up with kind of predetermined conclusions about things, especially in the entertainment world, although it applies to everything these days. That was a great example of, one, take the criticism of something in the context it's given, as far as, like you mentioned, that was a stacked year for comic book movies. And the consensus was wrong. The consensus didn't quite get it. It was, and look, The Dark Knight is genuinely one of the best comic book superhero films ever made. There's no question about that. But it did also have an unfortunate shadow, pun intended, I guess, kind of cast over everything else around it and on the entire genre for a while. So
yeah, Dark Knight messed up a lot of stuff. I love that movie so much. It was my favorite movie for quite some time. It messed up the medium for a while.
Yeah. I mean, anyways, I was about to start talking about Man of Steel, but that's a different conversation. Punisher Warzone, if you said, hey, let's throw that on again, I'd be like, heck yeah, let's do it. So
yeah.
And that's one of the best.
Even a year ago, I probably would have sat there and been like, "Oh, you sure you want to do that? We're going to be in for it."
Well, we both expected that to be a Superman 4, a Pacific Rim Uprising. We fully expected that to be an episode where we were just having fun trashing on a movie, and instead we're both going like, "Dang, this is pretty good."
Rock on.
So yeah.
Yeah. So there's mine. Okay, so you've done a good one. You've done a bad one. I've done a good one. You've done a bad one. I think it's time for you to have another bad one.
It is time for me to have another bad one. And I am going to pick on This is a movie. If this is a controversial pick, then please comment. I want to talk to you because Star Wars Attack of the
I'm gonna
Clones.
comment.
It's Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the
If
Clones.
now, if depending on the day you ask me, and if you no, actually, I'm deciding this as I speak. This is not the worst Star Wars movie. That honor does to me belong to Rise of Skywalker
Hmm.
because it did more damage. But Attack of the
Yeah.
Clones is so bad. And
Hmm.
I totally get the resurgent love for the prequel trilogy, and there is a lot of things to love about the prequel trilogy. I think the majority of our commentary was positive on those movies. Even Attack of
Yeah.
the Clones, I think that we really tried to kind of, look at the good
We
in
tried to
there.
find the good, you
Yeah.
know?
But it's a bad movie. It is, and
It
we
is.
were talking about this before we started recording. Unlike Superman 4, which, despite being a very bad movie, it has a lot of asterisks next to it. It has some valid excuses. Attack of the Clones, in my opinion, doesn't have any excuses. George Lucas, I love him. I'm so appreciative of his brain, and the fact that we live in a world where the original trilogy was made. But he's also got some glaring weaknesses, and Attack of the Clones was one of the just it demonstrated them in a way that's and the going to full CG before we were ready, going to giving direction to actors to make choices that are like, what, why? It's just the dialogue is so bad. The action scenes, I mean, there's some moments of coolness,
Moments.
but for the most part, again, if you go watch that movie and you're 8 years old, I expect you to love it. If you go watch that movie as a functioning adult and don't have nostalgia goggles on, and you tell me it's good, I'd love to talk to you because I don't understand what you're looking at.
Yeah, I'd really like to talk to some of the people that we see online because you can tell when some people are kind of being, they're saying it because it's their character. But you talk to somebody, one of the YouTube people I like, Star Wars Theory, who genuinely loves the prequel trilogy, almost like every facet of it, loves George Lucas. He's his hero type of thing. I genuinely want to talk to them about somebody like him or him himself. I'd love to talk to him himself. Not in any type of confrontational way, but in kind of like a. But what about these issues? Because it's true. I think that overall, I have to say that Attack of the Clones is the worst Star Wars movie. I do have a more blistering, visceral hatred for Rise of Skywalker, like you said, because it did more damage. Um, and to a lesser extent, but also similar issues with Last Jedi. But it's just like I try and think of Attack of the Clones in the best light possible
Yeah.
because it has these certain moments. It has such beautiful cinematography sometimes, and I love the costuming and uh, came out with some of the best music. But it can't be denied that it's like on every fundamental level, it was one of the biggest missteps, including in George Lucas's actually like very meticulous writing. His creative choices, like Jar Jar Binks and the Trade Federation in Phantom Menace, his writing for Phantom Menace and his writing for Revenge of the Sith, they have some really good things to it in terms of character development and uh, not pacing, unfortunately, in how it's directed, but they have thought put into them, like some really good thought. You can tell that this is somebody who cared about what they were writing. And Lucas very famously had an intense writer's block for Attack of the Clones, but he needed to keep on schedule. So he was almost making it up as he went along, and it had very much of that fix it in post type of idealism to it, and it just brought the entire thing down. and I have to agree with you that it is one of the worst movies that we watched this year. Even
Yeah.
if I do have a love for the prequel trilogy, I can't defend Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. Well, and like the prequel trilogy, if somebody wants to watch them, I'll watch them. You know, I went and saw Revenge of the Sith in theaters this last year with my daughter. Who was
Mm-hmm.
it was her. You know, it was a chance for her to see one of the prequels on the big screen. It was kind of cool. I am very excited, by the way, for
I was literally about to bring this up.
2027. Like I am paying for freaking IMAX tickets the moment they go on sale for me and all my kids to go see the original theatrical cut of Star Wars. I am
I'm going to take my mom
hyped
because she has
beyond
been
belief.
wishing for that to come out.
Oh yeah, no, and when when we get to the original trilogy, we're going to talk about the two cuts. So I don't want to get into that here, but like I know we've mentioned in passing that I grew up with those, so they're very like I can tell you every
And I
minute
didn't.
little
I've
different.
never seen them.
You've never seen them, period, or
Not that I remember.
okay.
It's possible that I did watch them at like my grandmama's house because she had all the old VHSs and stuff like that. But I don't have a clear memory of ever having seen the unedited Star Wars movies.
Okay. Well, anyways, that's the word. But I Rise of Skywalker and Last Jedi, I have more negative feelings towards because of the particular decisions they made and what I like about Star Wars and things that just that whole conversation. But I will gladly admit, without any hesitation, that The Last Jedi is a far better film than Attack on the Clones, despite all my issues
Right?
with
Isn't
it.
that such a difficult thing to actually say? But when you break it down, you're like, damn it.
Oh, that's what I mean. Yeah, I intensely dislike Last Jedi, and whenever we finally get to those, you'll hear all about it. Attack of the Clones is a worse film. It is a worse film. It's a worse acted film. It doesn't look as there's nothing about Attack of the Clones that is superior except the costuming, maybe. I don't know.
I would actually agree with that. The costuming and daring to have a different tone than the original trilogy.
Yeah, but no, Attack of the Clones is the only defense for Attack of the Clones for me is kind of just nostalgia / charm of the prequels in
I like
general. What's that?
I like Django. I like Tamora Morrison.
And I mean, John Williams' music is fantastic. I mean, there's plenty of. I'll put it this way: I think any of the things you can say positive about Attack on the Clones are not actually about that film. They're about the prequels in general. I genuinely think that any compliment is more in general about that trilogy than about that movie specifically.
Yeah. And
So,
okay, another thing that I want to say, and this will be the last thing I say about it, otherwise you can keep talking about this.
go for it.
I've read tons of Star Wars books, okay? And one of the things about the prequel trilogy, especially, is that their novelizations give a lot of strength to the story. They're taken a lot from, like, George Lucas helped with them. They help flesh out the story and the characters far better than what the movies are able to do, especially with Revenge of the Sith. That one has this like crown jewel among hardcore Star Wars fans of being an absolutely incredible book, not just a good Star Wars book, but actually a good science fiction and really interesting character stuff and psychology to it even. But so Revenge of the Sith book novelization incredible. The Phantom Menace book is pretty darn good. Done by Terry Brooks, the late Terry Brooks, um, who is a known fantasy author, but and he did well at it. It did help to expand the plot and the problems and the characters. Uh, Attack of the Clones didn't. Attack of the Clones was awful. Um, it just was not a good book. It didn't add to the rest of the story all that much at all. Um, and it had that same very unfinished, unpolished feel to it that uh, the movie did. And so that, in my mind, kind of tells me that this was a movie that was struggling from its very inception. It's the awkward middle child, and there was pretty much nothing that could have saved it.
Yeah. Yeah, I I get that it's not as simple as this, but that's like one of those good examples where if George had hit the pause button until he figured out what he really wanted to do, long term it would have, because I mean the movie was very successful financially in the theaters, but I mean again, I other than people who defend the prequel trilogy as a whole, this is one of those films that deservedly pretty much always ranks at the bottom of people's lists, and it belongs to
And
be
the
there.
book was written by R.A. Salvador, who was a
Oh yeah.
very prominent fantasy author as well, and I really like a lot of his stuff, but the book did not help the movie in comparison to the other two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's all I
let's
got.
see here.
I'm shutting it
Am I doing another good one?
now. I think it's my turn for a good one.
Go for it.
RoboCop.
The first one? The
Yeah,
original? Really?
the original. Okay, so I
Really?
told
Okay.
Brian a completely different bunch of movies at the beginning. I decided to change my mind because I want to do a special mention for Thunderbolts. I loved recording Thunderbolts because I got to have my wife on. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's brilliant, like genuinely, like summa cum laude genius in her field. And we got to talk about all the cool stuff with Thunderbolts and its depiction of things like personality disorder and bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, things like that. I had such an amazing time filming that. And also with Interstellar, having Brian and Dan here talking about that. But another one of those things where I'm just like, I remember the recording of it so well was RoboCop, the original. Because I didn't really give much thought to RoboCop. I had never really seen it. I'd seen pieces of it. I knew that it was a Paul Verhoeven movie. I don't really like Paul Verhoeven. But that's mostly like him as a person, not him as a filmmaker. And I had purposefully avoided it, thinking that it was just a dumb 80s action movie. And then I was studying it a little bit, and I'd only really put it on there because I was the one who put it on the list, right, Brian?
I think so.
Yeah, I'd only really put it on there because I liked the idea of a classic and the classics remake.
Yeah,
and
we did a few of those this
squish
year.
them together, like what we did with Clash the Titans
Yeah.
and the Mummy movies. So I was blown away at how much I loved RoboCop. Very similar to what I was talking about with Punisher Warzone, this is something that I avoided because I thought it was going to be stupid, because I thought it just wasn't going to be my speed, that it wasn't as quality as other things that we had watched, like Aliens and Predator, and those kind of classic action movies, Big Trouble in Little China. And I actually discovered, like, one of my favorite classic action movies. This is up there now with it's like I can no longer sit there and just say, "Oh, the best ones are Predator, Aliens, and Terminator 2." It's like, no, Predator, Aliens, Terminator 2, RoboCop, Die Hard, you know? Just these classic action movies that are just the very top form of their genre, and I still get the theme music to RoboCop stuck in my head. And it was kind of a very late born revelation for me. And I'm just like, dang, my own biases were keeping me away from this thing.
Aw.
And I can't escape it anymore. RoboCop is amazing, and I love it. And if my parents ever hear this podcast, they'll be very disappointed in me.
Yeah. No, I mean, so RoboCop was one that I discovered as an adult, because my parents also would never have let me watch that movie. But it was a movie that I early into my adult life, I was just really diving deep into kind of the 70s and 80s, just the iconic films from those eras, and the history of action films and action films that elevated their genre, that would, really took on some interesting topics and had more to say than just, violence. where the violence like but was trying to say something else, and just also just where the effects work and the behind the scenes work and just the satire, movies that were kind of misunderstood by critics and audiences at the time, all those things. I like all that kind of stuff. And the original RoboCop was one that I actually went into that movie the very first time with like a full knowledge of kind of that it was supposed to be amazing and it was really well regarded and all these things. And so I kind of went into it like wanting to like see all that, and it did not disappoint. I don't know if that, I mean, in some ways I almost wish I could go back and see it for the first time without anybody telling me anything about it, just because I'd be curious where I would get to on my own. But I also think that there's some value to have like understanding a movie through education, where you kind of have things pointed out, have things shown to you through written and video essays and all the various ways we consume that kind of things these days. Because I adore it. It's a fantastic movie. It's one that I was worried about. And I knew you enjoyed it. I didn't realize that you would come that far in it. So this is actually was kind of fun for me to listen to, because I knew that you enjoyed it more than you expected, but I didn't realize it had gotten that high on your list. And it is one of those movies that, when it's spoken about as highly as it is for its era and what it accomplished, I think it fully deserves it. And it's definitely not everybody's cup of tea. It is very violent. It is very satirical, and it's also it's weird because I'm a capitalism. I'm going to say this: capitalism is a very mixed bag. And right now, it's quite popular to kind of bag on it, and for some reasons, rightfully so. But for other reasons, it's just emotional reactions to various other things, and just avoid that conversation. But this movie is very open about discussing the problems with it running away, and they're very valid points, and it shows it in a way that is visceral and poignant and kind of undeniable in the conclusions when things are left unchecked in that particular economic / power dynamic. So I love that an 80s action movie about a robot cop is able to say so much, and it's just it makes me happy.
And it makes it kind of extra funny because Paul Verhoeven himself said that he wrote it to be taking place in what he would describe as it's the runaway capitalism that we associate with the right, but the way that you have to get there is by the runaway. It was written to be, in his own words, a liberal paradise. The only way that you get there is by going complete runaway to the left. It will end up with this far left thing that would end up being able to be taken control of and run away with by the far right. And so it's this really fascinating parallel, kind of critiquing both sides in that way.
Yeah.
And part of the thing that really brought me around to it was that I actually ended up at a movie night, probably about 2 months after we watched it, with some friends who were all just like, we're going to watch 80s action movies. And we watched like Running Man. And because one of the other guys hadn't seen it. And then he also mentioned that he hadn't seen RoboCop. And it's like 9:00 at night and we're all old men. And I was the youngest one there by like 4 years. And he was just like, we're going to watch RoboCop. And I watched it with them and with all the knowledge that I had after this podcast. I went, this is great. This is my jam. This is fantastic. And I had a great time with it.
Nice. Well,
so now
I think we have, I think our last bad movie we both agreed on, but why don't you go ahead, or did I go next? Do I go next for bad
it's
movie?
your next bad one, and wait, no, it would be mine. For the bad one, what did I say again?
Go for it. What's your last bad one?
My last bad one would have to be The Mummy: Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
Yeah, okay, it's mine also. So we can dogpile on this thing together.
Exactly, because there's so many that I want to talk about, because there's some here that deserve a lot of critique. I wanted to bag on The Mummy 2017. I really wanted to crap on that one. I even wanted to talk about some of the failings of The Mummy from 1933. Uh, and even Superman 3. But Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor is just a movie that should not have existed. Very similar to Superman 4. I loved The Mummy. The Mummy Returns is a terrible movie that I have a ton of nostalgia for that is just so stupid it's good. But Tomb of the Dragon Emperor is not so bad it's good. It's just bad. They they made stupid story decisions. They didn't have a lot of the really fun action. The cast chemistry wasn't there. They tried to force things that didn't belong. They tried, like, the idea of transferring the leadership of a series to somebody else is not terrible, but for some reason, it's really stinking hard to do. And this is one of those movies that I point to as that it shouldn't have been as hard as it was. They chose the wrong story. They made the wrong choices, and it's not fun like the other movies. It has brief moments of fun, but it's not fun. It's not good, and it's kind of ugly. And it just makes me sad.
No, I completely agree. Um, it's at the time of recording this, it's I'm not sure if it's as light as a rumor, but it's definitely not like a confirmed plan. But that Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz and Oded Fehr and
No, it is. It's pretty much confirmed.
well, I think it's
they had like
confirmed
a
that
photo
they're
shoot
working on
together.
it.
Yeah, that they're trying to get it off the ground.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's not like in production.
No,
It's a we
it's in
want to do
pre-production.
this, and everybody that we need has said they want to, and the studio is saying they're like it's maybe not. It's not in production, but it's in development. Is that the right way to put it?
Yes, I would say that it is in development.
Okay. And because we're also right now like in a Brendan Fraser, God bless him, is has had a resurgence. He won his Oscar last year, and
The Renaissance.
he's had a he's been able to come back, and he's a very beloved actor. People just really like the guy, love the guy, and I think that is deserved. I haven't seen The Whale, so I've heard the performance is amazing,
Don't.
but I just not it's not my kind of movie. So
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where the performance is amazing. I don't think it's really anybody's type of movie.
it's an Aronofsky
And I think
film,
that's
right?
kind of on purpose. Yeah, but it just
I've actually
his performance is so good, but at the same time, I nobody needs to see the things that they decided to depict in that movie.
yeah I'm sorry for any cinephile out there. I'm just not a Darren Aronofsky
Yeah.
fan. I can't think of a single film he's done that I've loved. And sorry. Anyways, but I'm happy for him, that he's having this just kind of second, coming of just his career, because he deserves it. But yeah, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, the CG's bad. It's boring. It's not funny. I have nothing personally against. I forgot her name. Who's Rachel Weisz's replacement? It's
Yeah, her.
her. She has no chemistry at all with Brendan Fraser. It's the villain.
Maria
I
Bello.
yes. Jet Li is somebody who, in the right film, I enjoy watching him do his martial art thing very much. He is boring, uninspired, and one of the most one-dimensional villains of all time in that movie. It's just,
His choices make no
yeah.
sense.
Michelle Yeoh was probably one of the little bright spots in that film,
Yep, elevates that.
but she
Absolutely.
just didn't have much to do. So it's just there's and Rob Cohen, he's not like some horrible director, but he's also doesn't bring a lot of special to his films. And I know that he's made some movies that are very beloved, the Triple X and the first Fast and Furious and stuff like that. But it's just
What do the kids say these days? He's very mid.
yeah, that'd be a good way to put it. He's yeah. But yeah, I almost don't have anything to say because the movie just is blah. It just it's like you said, Mummy Returns. I will happily watch that movie. It's a movie that I enjoy immensely, despite the fact that it is in many ways bad. but it still has that cast. It still has that chemistry. You still just get that undeniable fun
That
in
je ne
that
sais
film.
quoi.
Yeah. So and Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, it's got none of it. And Brendan Fraser, I really feel like he's given it everything he's got in that movie, but it wasn't enough to save it, and that's not his fault. But it's also I think it's kind of undeniable if you watch that movie with open eyes.
Yeah, just don't got that thing.
Yeah. I own it on
Don't
Blu-ray, but
understand.
that's only
You
because it was
ain't
part of
got
a
that
cool
swing.
pack of all the movies, or else I wouldn't own it.
Yeah, same actually. I have the same thing.
But how about
Yeah.
another good one? So before we get
Yeah,
to
go for it.
about to say,
Go for your big capstone.
well, no, no, no,
Cheater.
I have one more because I've only done one of
Okay.
my good ones so far. So and I think we might have gotten out
Oh.
of order, but anyways, I want to talk about this briefly because it falls very much in the same category as RoboCop. The original Predator film. This might be a cliche film to praise. I don't care. It is such a good movie. This
It's the
is
ultimate guy movie.
it is one of those. I mean, we had we had two of these this year, but I mean, Predator is a Mount Rushmore action film. It absolutely is. It is just one of the leanest, coolest. I heard somebody that maybe it was you that sent me this text, but it was somebody else. Maybe it was somebody else. Correct me if you sent me this, but that the Predator is like a horror film where the special ops team are like the prom girls being chased by the killer.
Yes, that was me who sent it.
Okay,
Predator is it perfectly falls into a slasher. It is an 80s slasher movie, but instead of Jamie Lee Curtis being the final girl, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
and now I'm thinking about True Lies with the two of them. It's but yeah, it's that is another movie that I would call for what it is, what it's intending to be. That movie's a masterpiece. It is a just perfect, tight action dudes in the jungle, just cutting them off. I mean, just there's no fat on that movie. It's fantastic. I love it. I love the It's funny you're talking about RoboCop's music, and I love RoboCop's music, but I love the Predator theme also. Just that simple
That's a good thing.
beat that it's got. I think about that kicking in when you, me, and Pat were playing Ghost Recon, and that little Easter egg,
right. That was
event thing
great.
came out, and you like went to that part of the jungle, and all of a sudden the music kicked in. And it's like, oh, it's where is he?
We're screaming our heads off playing that.
Oh my gosh, where is he? Where's the Predator? Just it's so good. It's I think like Arnold it's a great combination too of just the testosterone and I mean the most epic handshake in the history of film. Because it's not just Arnold. Carl Weathers is great in that movie.
Yeah, I have grown into having such an appreciation for Carl Weathers in the
yeah.
last few years, and of course, right when that happens, he goes and dies. Thanks, man. Poor guy.
He got one last little hurrah with the Mandalorian, which is a great little role he did, and it's just yeah. He was also in he had a couple films kind of at the end of his career, a little surge there at the end, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, the Predator, obviously, it's a well documented, beloved film that anybody who's shocked that you like the Predator, and wow, epic choice. Like, but it is. It's one of those movies where, like, as cliched as it is, it's for a reason. It is that good. It just is, and I love it. That was a movie that I was genuinely excited when my kids got old enough to show it to them. I was like, oh, you're finally old enough. I get to show you this movie. And they loved it. And I was so happy.
Right.
Anyways.
No, 100%. Because I'm the same way. I love Predator. My dad talked about it a lot growing up, but he didn't keep R-rated movies in the house. He was a pastor, and there were a lot of problems with that. Because people would come over and get really mad at him or if they saw him or something like that. So he just kind of avoided them. He had kind of a special cabinet that he kept. But he obviously really respected the movie and he liked it. And he talked about it a lot. I have these very distinct memories of him talking about the plot of Predator and the way that it just kind of evolves as you're watching it from like, oh, it's a movie about these special forces soldiers to know it's them being hunted by an alien, and it's he I very vividly remember all of that. And so I went and found it myself. And I fell in love with it. Then I saw the sequel and I didn't like it. The very first interaction with Predator I ever had in films was Alien versus Predator. So I didn't really know what it was that I was missing by not having seen that original. And when I did, it's been in my top list of action movies ever. And I will always go back. I told this story in the actual podcast that it's the reason that I'm married today
Hmm.
because I was thinking about dating again, and Brian was telling me, no, maybe you shouldn't. It's probably too early following a very intense breakup that I'd had. And then I was just like, yeah, you're probably right. I just been bored. I watched every single Predator in like 2 days, including the Alien versus Predator movies. And he was like, you know what? Maybe you should start dating again. And I actually took that to heart and met my wife like 2 months later.
I do love every time I tell
So
that story. I enjoy it. It just makes me
yeah,
laugh.
because honestly, I probably would have taken your advice and not like put off dating for a little bit longer, been like, "Oh, I'll wait a full year after my breakup or something," and ended up meeting some far inferior girl. No offense to any girls out there.
Well, I want to give one quick honorable mention before we jump to kind of at least I think the last movie we have to talk about. Right? Do we have one
Yeah.
more on our list? I think we have one left. But
Hmm?
I wanted to mention just really quickly the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. The first movie
Mm-hmm.
most specifically, but all three of them. We had my oldest daughter Tasha on with us, and that's just such a special trilogy. It's a special animated trilogy. It's a special just trilogy, even just without even taking into consideration the animation. For me, it's a huge just dad movie that my kids loved, and I came to know it with my kids as they were the right age when they came out to just fall in love with them. And then hearing my daughter, who she was the one. I have three kids, and she was the one who latched on to story and film and what makes film good and what makes a good story, and looking at animation specifically, and what about this animation so just interesting, and what makes it stand out, and to have her on, to be able to have that experience, to record with her and to revisit memories with her, was very special. And if you ever listen to this episode, Tasha, that was super special for me, and I thank you so much for doing those 3 episodes with us. So just wanted to give a quick
Yeah.
little shout out to that one for me. It's a special memory.
Oh, absolutely. And it was a really wonderful time having her here, and I adore that first movie, and it was really nice rewatching those other two and kind of remembering that those are actually really solid movies that deserve their place in the sun as well. Very beautiful movies as well,
Yeah,
and definitely deserves the honorable mention. And I would want to do an honorable mention
go for it.
for Interstellar, having Dan here, and just that being an incredible science fiction that kind of makes me want to cry every time there's that stupid sequence of Matthew McConaughey
No,
watching the lives of his children after 22 years.
yeah,
Um, and even if it's just so freaking long.
it is a long
And
movie.
also an honorable mention to Galaxy Quest because I
Yeah.
love that movie. I was so excited that we got to do that. I was also really excited that we got to do movies like Serenity and Frequency and the Clash of the Titans series and Detective Pikachu that are just
Mhm.
these more unknown movies that are, I mean, I can't really call Detective Pikachu unknown, but they're just movies that people don't revisit very often these days.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And
Well,
I just wanted to
yeah,
point those out as well.
completely agree. For anybody who doesn't know, Dan, Zach, and I have all been super close, best friends for years, and I mean, your entire adult life, Zach, right?
Yeah, I can tell you the exact date you and I met.
Yep.
Which let me see here.
Well, yeah.
I
All
forgot
right.
the name of the movie.
What
Never mind. Continue.
Vantage Point?
Vantage Point.
But okay, so you looked that up for a second, and I'm just gonna say, so I live up in Oregon. Zach still lives down in California. I'm the one who moved away. I'm sorry, but we only get to all be in the same room together once, maybe twice a year if we're lucky, and it has been that way for years now. And we all miss each other a lot. So the opportunity to get together, and not only get together, but to talk movies, because we both, not both, we all, Dan included, has just a passion for film and story and all, just that whole medium. And yeah, anytime we all get to spend a day together, and that was a great day because we spent the whole day together. We saw Fantastic Four together, had a great dinner, and then got to go record, after. You just, made a day out of it. And it was really special. It was a special day and a special time. And I cherish those whenever they come around.
Yeah. Yeah, I met you in 2008.
Man, seems like a long time ago.
Specifically in March of 2008.
Yeah, you were that kid that Dan was like, you should meet him. I want to see you guys have a conversation. Somebody needs to tell him he's wrong.
I was gonna say Dan wanted me put in my place, and God, right to do so. I was a little shit.
We all go through that phase. It's okay. I definitely have had moments like that in my life also.
Right? Oh, we should watch Vantage Point movies.
I would have to remember that kind of is a not memorable movie. I know that Dennis Quaid's in it and Matthew Fox is in it from Lost, and it's about the Secret Service, and I think Matthew Fox is the villain at the end. Am I remembering that right?
I mean, you're talking Dennis Quaid, Matthew Fox, Edgar Ramirez, Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker's in it, that's
William Hurt, Sigourney Weaver, Zoe Saldana.
Wow.
The thing has a cat.
I have not watched that movie since. I never saw it after the theaters. Not that it was a bad movie. It was one of those. It just was like, all right, I enjoyed hanging out with you guys. That's my memory. It's not the movie. So, anyways.
Yeah, that happened.
It did. All right. Do you have any?
Anyway. No, those are my honorable mentions. I could talk about each and every single one of these just a little bit again, but of course I won't do that. But I will say that if anybody's listening to this and hasn't listened to the others, check out specifically Frequency, Arrival, and Galaxy Quest. And of course,
Quest. Yeah.
I would also plug Thunderbolts and the first How to Train Your Dragon, because those were our guest ones. But those were some of the best shows that we did.
And I realized you've brought it up, and I didn't say anything, and I wanted to make sure I pointed this out too. I really did enjoy Thunderbolts also. It was so great having Rissa on. Anytime she wants to do it again, I would be thrilled to have her on again. I know she was very nervous, but she was amazing. And watching that film and hearing her insights, and I'm definitely kind of so on that just as a film, but the episode and recording it and having the conversations and just that was a special episode for me also. And I'm very grateful that she took an evening out of her life to do that with us and braved the microphone, so to speak.
Heck yeah.
So, but to wrap this episode up, total cheat, right? I mean, I'm obviously cheating, but it's our podcast, so we can do what we want.
Cheater.
Because it's the Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's just...
It's the Lord of the Rings.
Of course, we
haven't even mentioned it yet tonight, and we've talked so much about it. 6
episodes, almost 12 hours of podcasting to do that trilogy. We've literally avoided even mentioning it up to this point. And I think, not spoiler, just, my favorite is Fellowship. Yours is Two Towers. We both love all 3. But, if you had to put them, right, that's accurate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I mean, I think Two Towers is the best of them. I do actually think that my favorite to just watch is Fellowship. I love the Mines of Moria. I love the adventure feel of that whole movie. That's a little bit more present than in the other 2, and I just love all 3 of them. But the first 2 are my favorite. Not to put anything against Return of the King, but it drags a bit.
It does, yeah. And if anybody's curious too, we recorded those the most recently. So for Zach and I, they're the most recent memory as far as we feel like we literally just talked about them at length. So I don't have a lot.
Ad nauseam even.
Yeah, I don't have a lot really to say here about them, except I want to just echo the sentiment that I mentioned, I think at least twice while recording those, is that those, to me, so, okay, let me back up. Star Trek is my favorite franchise of all time. I adore specifically the original trilogy. The original series. I'll get there.
Mixing your metaphors here, buddy.
I am. So I'm about to hit Star Wars, but Star Trek is my favorite franchise. It's my dearest fictional franchise, and the original series, with the original series films, are the most. Even though I love so much of Next Gen and Deep Space Nine specifically, and then a lot of other stuff too, but when it comes to like cinema, the only thing comparable in my mind to Lord of the Rings is the original Star Wars trilogy, as far as just a trilogy of films that is so special, so iconic, deserves its status in film history 110%. People could be tired of them. People cannot want to talk about them anymore because they're so just, talked to death. We talked about it when we started recording Lord of the Rings. That's one of those trilogies where it's like, what are we going to add to this conversation? There are so many extremely talented people who have commented on it, who have talked about it, who have dissected it, diagnosed it, just gone through everything. But all of that is because it is genuinely that special. It is that good. It is one of those touchstone moments in not only film history, but kind of specifically nerd film history, where the genre of fantasy specifically for Lord of the Rings, but this podcast is all about genre stuff. It's about fantasy and science fiction and that
Nerds.
kind of subgenre of nerd stuff, where our genre changed cinema history. It really did. And the Lord of the Rings, I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful for Peter Jackson and the team that he assembled, and just the thousands of people who poured years of their lives into making those movies as special as they are. Means a lot to me. And I know that there are so many people who think the same way, who just look at those films as a part of their lives. And I feel similar. So
Yeah.
so I just want to leave it at that, I guess. I honestly don't have anything specific to say about the films themselves. Again, if you're curious what we think about those films, there are 12 hours for you to listen to.
Right?
But I adore them. I will revisit them on a semi-regular basis for the rest of my life. I look forward to my grandkids getting old enough to sit down with my kids and their kids and watching Lord of the Rings, right around the holidays, which is kind of when we usually do them. And it's just special, and it will always be special. And I love those movies. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. And I'll follow up on that because I keep finding things online about the Lord of the Rings movies that I'm like, man, I wish that I'd known this before the podcast, even though I wouldn't have been able to talk about all of it. But there's a particular YouTube channel that Brian and I are both big fans of called Corridor Crew, who a week after we finish filming Return to the King Part 2, they post a video that's just about, you're looking at it, it's just about a cool special effects shot that's in The Lord of the Rings that they try and recreate. But in reality, the entire video is a love letter to The Lord of the Rings from that entire group. Because you have all these guys who are special effects artists, visual effects artists, and half of them were first inspired to get into visual effects because of The Lord of the Rings and because of the behind-the-scenes content that's included with The Lord of the Rings. And there's so many filmmakers out there, young filmmakers my age and Brian's age, who got into that world and that career path because of The Lord of the Rings and because of the special features about how they made those movies and the incredible things that they did in order to bring it to life. And anybody who is vaguely curious about filmmaking and visual effects should go and watch the making of and special effects breakdowns for The Lord of the Rings, that most of which are included with the special editions. You can find almost all of it on YouTube now. There's like 60 hours worth, and I heard it echoed in several places online from reputable sources and my own experiences that is a school course on filmmaking itself. And the Lord of the Rings is just, it's so influential. And I'm from that exact generation where I was 10 years old when the first movie came out. And then 12 with the second, and 13 with the third. It was life defining. And even to this day, it's memed to hell and back in some great ways and some terrible ways. But even though it's not on my favorites list of the year, because as much as I love Lord of the Rings, I don't think it will ever be my absolute favorite. And I had a great time, of course, recording them, but goodness gracious, it was a lot. But it is so important to our cultural zeitgeist. And if you don't need to listen to us, but everybody should do something to go out and appreciate those movies. I know that's weird to say, but I'm still figuring out the exact timestamps to get my wife to watch it, almost like a single season of a TV show. Because she's like, I don't want to sit there for 3.5 hours at a time.
Yeah, I hear you there. I'm so blessed to have a nerd family. Let's put it that way. But yeah,
She's a nerd. She's just not that type of nerd.
and honestly, that's fine. That's totally fine. But yeah, they're special films, and yeah, those were fun to record, even if they were a marathon. If anybody's curious, behind the scenes, we actually did record Fellowship and Two Towers. We did those each in one recording to split them up for posting. So those were long nights.
A couple times I'm like that we just saw. I mean, last week when we watched.
Yeah, it was. We did those split up. Return of the King. We did not sit down and record that in one go. That's a long movie, and our voices start to go out.
Each one of them was 2 hours and 10 minutes long.
Yeah. So, but no, it has been an awesome year. It's just been so much. Like I said, we probably stacked a little too heavy on movies that we really wanted to watch next year. Yeah, we've got a couple. We've got some ones that I've never seen, which I'm looking forward to. I am so. We have two old. I wanted to point these out. This is much later next year, but The Shadow and The Phantom. I know of both those movies, but I've never seen either one of them, and I know that they're kind of a very specific genre of superhero film, both of when the films were made and then the source material are kind of a specific genre, and I'm looking forward to those a lot. So,
well, I actually really wanted to have. Last year we did The Rocketeer. I wanted to do The Rocketeer, The Shadow, The Phantom, and Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow all kind of together, but we had other things we wanted to do. I'm really excited to do The Shadow and The Phantom. I didn't grow up with The Shadow. I remember seeing it. I have vague memories of it, but I grew up with The Phantom. And that movie is similar to Pacific Rim. If you realize that they're not taking this movie seriously, and it is just supposed to be like an adaptation of a pulp 30s comic, it is so stinking good. And I'm really excited to do that one.
Nice. And then, yeah, there is one of the most, I'm not going to say the title, just as the fun little tease, one of the most recent films we've ever recorded next year, which is so bad. It's so bad. It is part of a trilogy of movies with the same title. There's your tease. But this has been fun. This has been a great 2025. Looking forward to 2026, and we will see you all, or not see you.
Well, I want
hopefully you'll listen to us all in the new year. But go ahead. What do you got?
I have one last thing to say. 25 for my family has been a very difficult year, and we've had like deaths in the family, job loss, financial stuff, sicknesses. It's been just a crazy, crazy year. And this podcast with Brian, even if we don't have that many listeners, is just one of those things that's been wonderful and super fun. And like, it keeps me going. There are other things in my life where if I got another job and I had to drop, this is the very last thing that I would drop. So if that ever happens, you know that life is real busy. But I'm extremely excited for next year because we have stacked this thing with some really good stuff, some really out there stuff, and genuinely some of the worst movies I have ever seen, as well as some old classics. And seriously, you guys are going to want to stick around for next year because we're getting better at this thing and the movies are getting weirder.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. All right. Well, have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
There's doors and corners, kid. If you don't clear the room, if you don't come in slow, that room will eat you.